We are ready now to begin this special launch today of our Voters Education Program. We want to acknowledge Almighty God and also acknowledge the members of Parliament that are here and the various stakeholders that are associated with the electoral process, and the members of staff, the media who is in our midst, and our very special guest from the United Nations, communication consultant, Mrs. Yvonne Goody, who is here with us today. Mrs. Dora James, Systems Administrator, Ms. Kadeen Williams, Honorable Minister of Transport and Works, Julian Francis, Representative for Member of Parliament for West Kingston, Honorable Daniel Cummins, Leader of the Democratic Republican Party, Mrs. Anicia Baptiste, other specially invited guests, Superintendent of the Kingston Chateaubelair Circuit of the Methodist Church, Reverend Adolph Davis, UN consultant attached to the Electoral Office, Mrs. Yvonne Goody, various stakeholders, members of the St. Vincent Royal Police Force. I am seeing Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Christopher, and several other important persons here. We want to take this opportunity to welcome you to the official launching of the Voter Education Program. Since 2001, there has been a call issued from various electoral observation groups that greater attention needs to be paid to voter education across the state. We are mindful that a limited amount of voter education would have been done primarily during the election phase of the electoral cycle. And since 2016, we have been working assiduously to roll out a comprehensive voter education program. A distinction must be made between the terms voter education, voter information, and civic education. Certainly, each falls along a continuum of mutually reinforcing educational activities in support of elections and democracy, and is mutually reinforcing. So it's important that we distinguish these concepts. Basic voter education refers to enabling qualified citizens to vote, including the date, time, place of voting, the type of elections, identification of necessary information to establish eligibility, registration requirements, and mechanisms for voting. Voter education typically addresses voters' motivation and preparedness to participate in the elections. And then civil education focuses on the broader concepts underpinning democratic society, such as the respect for rights and responsibilities of citizens, government, political and special interest groups, the media. So we are rolling out today, in essence, a component of the voter education program, which we will speak to later on. And so to give us a greater appreciation of what this voter education would look like is our esteemed supervisor, Mrs. Dora James, who is very well placed to carry out this mandate. I want you to help me welcome Mrs. Dora James as she comes to give us an overview of the program.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Permit me to adapt the protocol that was established earlier, but also to add my welcome. As the welcome was given, I saw Superintendent of Prisons, Charles, coming in, so warmest welcome, brother. Voter education brings to life a multiplicity of issues that are pertinent to any democratic civilization. It gives rise to healthy discussions that can provide relevant information to educate people. It can also bring into focus other issues that, even if they are not directly related to the democratic intent of the program, are important to the listeners and therefore may be deemed important for the processing of the message disseminated. Further, addressing these issues may also dictate their receptiveness to and participation in such a program. What then is voters' education, and why is this so important? Voters' education is an exercise designed and undertaken to provide voters with the necessary information to make an informed choice on polling day. It includes information on when, where, and how to register to vote, as well as when, where, and how to vote. It can also explain the electoral process, the role and responsibilities of the voters, the relationship between election and democracy, and other related topics. Entrenched in this program too is the civic aspect, which can emphasize not only the electorate's awareness, but also their participation in all aspects of a democratic society. Election management bodies, and in the Vincentian context, the Electoral Office, typically conducts voter education programs. However, political parties and other organizations with interest in national elections also participate in this exercise. These are mainly developed and executed during the election phase of the electoral cycle. Consequently, information shared throughout this period are not disseminated with the true intent of the culture of the program. Rather, it is more tailored to focus on the organization's own agenda. Sometimes, too, it is used to spread misinformation with the sole intent to confuse, mislead, divide, and create conflict and mistrust among the people. As a result, an environment can be created where the success of a voter's education program, as this one launched today, is challenged. This environment can become so turbulent that the real message can be missed, resulting in a less than fruitful exercise. Regardless of the environment, though, the Electoral Office must speak. It must seek every opportunity to engage the citizenry and educate them about their legal mandate and the benefits this program can bring. In such an environment, the Electoral Office must be deliberate in its endeavor to ensure that the citizens receive timely, relevant, unbiased, and accurate information that will help them to exercise their democratic rights. It must ensure that in doing so, all persons, no matter their status, limitations, challenges, or political affiliations, are reached. Every effort must be made to ensure that the message disseminated are also understood by all. Hence, As the nucleus of this process in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the Electoral Office can and will never waver in its efforts to be true and loyal to the laws that governs it. Our vision is to be a model electoral organization among the Commonwealth countries, delivering quality service to its stakeholders and the electorate of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Further, our mission is to provide quality service to the electorates of St. Vincent and the Grenadines while maintaining an up-to-date electors list through a continuous registration and re-registration process, thus ensuring the conduct of transparent, free and fair elections. In addition, the Representation of the People's Act provides legal guidance to our functioning as it consolidates and revises the laws of our country relating to the representation of our people. The office, therefore, uses these statements of fact to guide its day-to-day operations. This commitment will not be easy. The penetration of other beliefs that are contrary to those of the office will consistently remind us about the fragile, deceptive environment in which we work. But it will also remind us to use every challenge to improve our service. Guided by our mission, the Electoral Office has taken the bold step to launch this voters' education program. It will be implemented in different phases. The broad goal of this first phase of the program is to use various channels to disseminate information related to the registration and re-registration of our people. Voter registration is integral to the administration of elections. It is the key process that establishes which individuals are eligible to vote. A fair voter registration process fosters political equality and actively engages the inclusion of eligible voters. St. Vincent and the Grenadines does not practice passive voter registration, where our citizens are registered automatically when they become eligible. Instead, we have an active system where our citizens must take steps to register. Our laws provide each eligible person with fair access, and we encourage you to make full use of it. Registration matters. It has three objectives. One, it ensures that eligible citizens have a real opportunity to vote. Two, it prevents ineligible persons from voting. And three, it should prevent multiple voting. When a person becomes eligible for registration and is registered, he or she is issued with a voter's identification card. This card displays a photo of the voter and other unique and specific information that defines them. Accordingly, this card is unique to the voter. Further, it provides the voter with other privileges. It is also a national identification card. This card is also used for traveling to some of our neighboring islands, and it provides pertinent information to facilitate banking and other financial transactions. The identification card carries a useful life of 10 years. Consequently, all ID cards issued in 2009 will expire this year. Our statistical record shows that over 12,000 cards will fall in this category. From our interaction with the public, we have come to realize that not all of our electors are aware of this fact. We therefore ask every person, and I want you to do that now if you have your ID cards with you, all of you, to check your ID cards and see when it expires. Thank you for checking. So those of you who fall in this category, remember that we don't want you to go around with an expired ID card. The expiry date is located on the front of the card, if you didn't find it. On the right hand side, just above the picture image that is in the dark black circle there. It is printed in red. Once your card will expire this year, it will be replaced. This period of replacement is referred to as the re-registration period and will begin in earnest on the 15th of April this year, 2009. That is in the next 2 weeks. The 2 weeks waiting period is to give all electors time to source the documents they need to participate in this exercise. Re-registration means that the registrant's record will be updated and the card will be given a further 10-year life. The electors must present their identification card when they seek re-registration, and that means that the present card you have, if you come forward to do the re-registration, you need to surrender that card. Other information related to the re-registration process will be given by a competent system administrator in a while from now. The electoral office, the electoral staff will make every effort to ensure that all electors remain up to date. Please be informed that if your name is on the register of voters and your ID card expires before you can re-register, your name will not be removed from the register, or as we say, from the voters list. Our field staff will continue their weekly registration every Monday and Wednesday from 4 to 5:30, and from the 15th of April from 3:30 to 5:30. There will also be an increase in registration centers in some constituencies. Additionally, some workplaces registration will be done to facilitate those workers who work during the registration time or who for other legitimate reasons are unable to get to the registration centers on time. The registration process will be hectic. It may also bring anxiety. The office is prepared to get the job done, and we are dependent on the entire public to assist in facilitating a smooth process. We also know that there will be many questions, and we are committed to hear and address them. Consequently, the office will hold a series of community meetings where the electors can get an opportunity to interact with the staff. The dates and times will be shared in the media as soon as they are finalized. The idea of launching a voters' education program was not an overnight decision. The groundwork began in 2016 under the then supervisor of elections, Ms. Sylvia Findley. We thank her for boldly and willingly making the first step to start the process. Now that we have arrived at this juncture, we can reflect on the journey thus far and assess how far we have come. We are grateful for the partnerships we have forged with various organizations and businesses who were willing to contribute to a democratic St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We also look forward to engaging the public. We are confident that this exercise will be worthwhile and our nation will be better for it. The God who planted this seed did so in soil that will bring forth a rich and fruitful harvest. He is in control. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. James. And just before we invite the next presenter, as we were at the stage, first let me back up to acknowledge the presence of the Commissioner of Police and Deputy Commissioner of Police and those other members of Parliament who came in after we had a formal introduction, and the President of the National Women's Society of Women, and all the other persons and national persons with disabilities. We want to acknowledge your presence here today. As we were at the stage of developing the voter education program, we reached out to one of our partners, the United Nations. And quickly they were ready to respond to our requests. And today I wish to introduce to you a very special person. Mrs. Yvonne Goody is a civic and voter education and democratic governance practitioner with over 20 years experience working for various agencies, including the Australian Electoral Commission, International IDE, Institute Democratic and Electoral Assistance, UNDP, the International Federation for Electoral Systems, the Carter Center, Democratic Reporting International, International Organization for Migration, and Transparency International. She specializes in the niche area relating to learning and capacity development for democratic governance in the international area of gender and inclusion, participation and empowerment, as well as election management. Yvonne has worked in Australia, in New Zealand, in Solomon Islands, in Tango and Fiji, in Bangladesh, in Indonesia, in Thailand, in Nepal, in Egypt, in Georgia, Jordan, Romania, and several other places. She comes to us with a wealth of experience. And Yvonne is with the office for some time, and part of the goal is to develop a communication strategy and to build a capacity within the electoral office. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to help us welcome for the first time visiting St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Mrs. Yvonne Goody. If you would stand. And Yvonne is sharing some important things with us, which we intend to adopt and embrace as part of this voter education program. The Supervisor of Elections spoke recently about the re-registration process. And to help us have a better understanding of how that process will be rolled out, I now invite the System Administrator, Ms. Kadeen Williams.
Pleasant good morning, everyone. Just want to thank you for being here with us today. My task is to enlighten you a bit about what the voter registration is all about. What is voter registration? Voter registration is the right of all eligible citizens to participate in the affairs of their government. The objective of voter registration is to ensure the equal and universal participation of eligible voters. The objective is to produce an up-to-date and reliable list of all potential voters so that eligible voters can check in advance and their entries on the roll are present and correct. An accurate electoral roll makes it possible to verify the eligibility of all voters and so strengthen their authenticity and credibility of the electoral process. This voter roll is maintained on a continuous basis. That is, registration is done continually without interruption. The mechanics of registration requires the information included but not limited to the name, address, and date of birth of eligible voters. The procedure in trying to include all eligible citizens while preventing the registration of ineligible persons seek to stop underage voting and deter illegal multiple registration. That means that we don't want to have the same person being registered twice on the voters list. This is a major task because people die or migrate. They relocate from one region of the country to another, or they get married and change their name. Young people who become eligible to vote must also be added to the database. Hence, a reliable and up-to-date voters list is used to provide the election body with a crucial tool to facilitate logistical and administrative planning and the design of voter education campaigns. This role, once completed, is made available to all stakeholders, such as political parties and candidates. This is important to help calm fears regarding the credibility of the voters list. Now you may ask, why must I register? You register because it is your democratic right as an eligible citizen to participate in the affairs of your government. Secondly, when you register, you will have an identity. Since you are able to obtain a national identification card, our identification card serves many purposes. One, for you to be a voter, and secondly, so that you can transact business easily, providing an identification of yourself. It has become a norm for most organizations to require some form of identification. For some institutions, it requires you presenting more than one ID. Your identification card is important in life as well as in death, since even when you die, your loved ones are asked to identify their death. Hence, it is important that you be registered. Who should get registered? Anyone have attained or reached the age of 18 years and older. Anyone who is a citizen of St. Vincent and Grenadines or is a Commonwealth citizen who has been residing in St. Vincent and Grenadines for a period of not less than 12 months preceding the date on which he or she applies to be registered as a voter. Also, anyone who has lived in a constituency for a period of not less than 6 months immediately preceding the date on which he or she applies to be registered as a voter. Additionally, even if your name has been removed from the voters list and you have been living in St. Vincent and the Grenadines all the while, you can be registered as a voter, but you will be registered where you have lived for the last 6 months. Where should you go to be registered? You can get registered at the registration centers set up by the electoral office in the respective constituency. As you may be aware, there is 15 constituted constituencies, and there are at least 2 alternative registration centers where you can get registered. Except for the registration centers of the constituency of North Windward and not leeward, as registration becomes more demanding, we will look at increasing more registration centers throughout. We will of course inform you in due course the future development. For shut-in, these are the people who are unable to walk, who are like blind, the elderly. Provision is being made for registering officers to collect information on these individuals. The person responsible for such persons must take the applicant's relevant documentation and information to the registration center. Applicants' registration will be completed at their home. Another location where persons can be registered is at the Electoral Office in Kingston, and that is for emergency purposes only. To know when and where registration is taking place, we will be provided. To know when and where registration is taking place will be provided by the Office of the Election. You can always come in and ask or telephone us to get that information. Also, the information is posted up at all registration centers across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Additionally, this information can be accessed electronically via the Government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines website, www.gov.bc, under the ministerial section of the website. Registration date and time. Registration is done at the registration center on Mondays and Wednesdays, beginning at 4 p.m. and finishes at 5:30 p.m. In the office, registration begins at 9 a.m. and ends at 3 p.m., Mondays to Friday. The right to remain as a voter. Every person registered as a voter shall remain registered unless and until his or her name is deleted from the register because he or she has died. 2. An objection to his or her registration has been allowed by the registering officer or supervisor of election. 3. He or she has been absent from St. Vincent and the Grenadines for a period exceeding 5 years, except in cases of absence for approved studies abroad. 4D, he or she found it declared to be a person of unsound mind or a patient in any establishment maintained wholly or mainly for the reception and treatment of people suffering from mental illness. Lastly, he or she is under sentence of death imposed on him by a competent court in any part of the Commonwealth or under sentence of imprisonment exceeding 12 months. Documents that are needed for registration as a voter. In the category of Vincentian by birth, you must take along your original copy of birth paper, your NIS information, but that is optional, an original copy of your marriage certificate if female and married. For Vincentian by descent, your original copy of birth certificate is required. Original copy of birth certificate for the parent who is Vincentian by birth, your original copy of marriage certificate if female and married, and your NIS, optional. For Vincentian by naturalization, you may take along with you original copy of birth certificate, original copy of marriage certificate if female and married, your citizenship certificate, and your NIS number, optional. For Commonwealth citizens, original copy of birth certificate, the original copy of marriage certificate if female and married, passport or travel document used to enter St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and last, your NIS number, that is also optional. Please note, for Nigerian students studying in SVG, you need to present your original birth certificate, passport or travel document used to enter St. Vincent and the Grenadines, along with an up-to-date letter from the university stating your acceptance and duration of course. Also, you need to provide proof that you have at least 1 year remaining in SVG to apply for an identification card. Documents needed for a change of name. The person requesting a change of name must present to the office the original documents to prove that his or her name is different from that which appears on the vote list. One, you may present your deed poll. Secondly, affidavit. Thirdly, passport. Fourthly, birth certificate. Fifthly, your marriage certificate. And lastly, your divorce papers. Requirements for replacement or lost ID card. Whenever you lose your identification card, you must first report the card has been lost either at the registration center or at the office of the election. A replacement form will be issued that must be signed by the person who has lost their identification card, which must be certified and stamped by a reputable person living within the constituency. For example, justices, minister of religion, senior public officers, notary public, etc., and be returned before the process can be completed. Requirements for transfer to another constituency. A person requesting a change of residence must be living in the constituency in which he or she wishes to be registered for at least 6 months on the date on which the person applies for the transfer. The registration officer will complete a change of residence form, which will be certified by a reputable person living within the constituency and be returned before the process can be completed. At present, the voters list has a total of 94,534 eligible voters, of which 90,070 persons has a new identification card. This means that 4,464 persons do not have a new identification card or haven't been re-registered. The constituency that has the largest amount of voters is the constituency of East St. George. Vying for second place is the constituency of South Leeward. And as usual, the least will be the Northern Grenadines because they are the smallest. In closing, I urge my fellow Vincentians home and abroad, especially the remaining 4,000 and some persons who haven't updated their voter status, to please do so. I'm also welcoming the new registrants who are pouring out in numbers to continue and benefit from this. As the Calypsonian Demanded said in his song, we have a country to build, and if we don't do it, who will? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. As an ongoing effort, part of the ongoing efforts at the office, we are desirous of creating greater visibility and accessibility to information. You will notice today that the office is now uniformed, and there is a number of publications that you can have access to when you leave this room. The table that is at the back provides several important publications and posters that is accessible. But more than that, we realize that the voter education program has to touch every sector, every level, every citizen must be reached. And so we have worked very hard with the ITSD department to rebrand and to create, as it were, our own website and web page and web presence. Today we are going to be officially launching that site. If you look on the screen, you would see that it is there. You can access it, www.electoral.gov.vc. If you take your smartphones out now, you can begin to access it. There, as we get ready to launch this site, and several of the things that Ms. Williams spoke to and the supervisor spoke to, you can find that on the site. And there are other things that will be coming on the site. As you could appreciate, websites are always work in progress. But very importantly, this website will be able to provide you information, data with regards to your polling station, your voters list, your registration, and your constituencies. In fact, one of the things that we've been working very hard with the Statistical Office and the physical planning is to begin to roll out geographical mappings of the constituency boundaries. And so that section under the site that you see constituency there, you're going to see geographical representation of the constituency. Shortly we will take you on a road trip to peruse the site. But I just want to remind you of some important things that were said. That on the 15th of April, the re-registration process begins in earnest. And persons are required to have their birth certificate, and as an administrative provision that we're rolling out, also we're requiring persons now to not just bring the original copy of their birth certificate, but to have a photocopy of it so that it is remaining with the office. This is to facilitate any clerical errors that might be made so that the process of doing those corrections could be expedited quickly. As most of you are aware, the process of re-registering persons, sometimes somebody may put an E when it's supposed to be an A on a name. And if you don't have a supporting document to do the correction, then you're required to wait a longer time. But if we have that copy, we can expedite the necessary corrections quick and speedily. So beginning the 15th of April, persons are required to bring a photocopy along with the original copy. The original copy, you're going to keep that. That's for you to keep as you have been doing. But the photocopy will be attached to your record. So importantly, that is something that would change. Additionally, we will facilitate office registration, but please note, no new registrants and no transfers will be facilitated in these processes. All new registrants and transfers will continue to be done at the constituency level. So even as you come to your office to facilitate registration, it will just be the updating of your card. No new registrant will be registered at offices. No transfers will be done at offices. Transfers and new registrants will continue to be done in the constituencies. On the 3rd of May, one of the first community educational programs will be rolled out at the old Treasury car park space. And on the 3rd of May, the general public will have an opportunity to trace the history of the Electoral Office and some of the work that we have been doing. They will also be able to engage in conversation and also be able to update their registration. Again, no new registrants will be facilitated and no transfers will be facilitated. I cannot underscore this enough. I have to say it again and again and again. So only the updating. So if you have an expired card and you bring your birth certificate with you on the 3rd of May at the old Treasury building space, we will be able to facilitate the updating of that card. We will not facilitate any transfers. Or if you're just turning 18, it will not be done there. You must go to the constituency office. Furthermore, we are increasing the registration centers across the state because we are cognizant that the island is geographically dispersed all over, people's settlement and so on. And so when you look at the new schedule that is already online and already available, you will notice that most constituencies have had an increased center. And as the system administrator said earlier, with the exception of a few, most of them have had increases. And we are listening to the concerns, and where there is need for us to add, we will do so as the time unfolds. This process is expected to remain until the end of the year, until all the persons who need to be re-registered have obtained their new card. And again, the persons who are shut in, you are not left out. Please, caretakers of the shut-in and persons elderly who are living at home, please get in touch with the registering officer in the constituency and make the necessary arrangements so that they can facilitate you having a new card. Bearing in mind, if your card expires in 2000, if your card is expiring in 2020 and 2021, you're not in any dire need. There's still much time on your card. The emphasis is for those persons whose cards will be expiring in 2019. So let's go to the website. Now, again, we really appreciate, if someone could just, Nick, if you could just switch the lights from the boardroom. We really appreciate the work of the ITSD department, and something that I will tell you, that all our polling centers, all our registration centers are now GPS, and you can now find them on your smartphone. You can find them on your smartphone, and you can also do your Google search and tell you how much time it will take you to get there. So if you look at the website, you would see there are various drop-down boxes, and each of these you can peruse and find information. Take, for example, the polling station finder. Let's go back there. We are not in an elections season yet, so some information on that polling station finder will naturally change as time progresses. But if you were to put your voter's number in that slot that is available there, where you voted the last election will pop up. Let's take an example, 00021. That's just a random number that I just picked. I didn't, 0021. Right? That's a random number I picked. So, and that, if you notice carefully, you would see that it is still say 2015. What we're trying to say to you is that we are updating this, and this is also something that is going to be available for 2021, whichever time it is. An additional feature that will be coming on that will be the global mapping of it, where you're able to actually find it on your smartphone, and you're able to track how much time it will take you to get there. The next category that is there as we walk through is the voters list. And you will notice that you can find in each constituency, the map is showing you the portion of that country that is representing the various constituencies. As you click on these, you're going to get information, and you're going to also be able to find the voters list for the constituencies. Additionally, you're able to see the pie, the spread, in terms of what percentage it represents. Alright, so you're able to see that percentage as you go through, as you peruse the site. It also gives you some other information in the drop box there. You can go and search for other things that you might be interested in. And as I said before, this is also a work in progress. It will constantly be updated and provide you a lot more information. The schedule for the registration is also there, and you can check it to see. For example, North Windward, you notice that Fancy and Oya is now added. So you can go to the site and you can get all of that information, and it is there. As we go along, So you can peruse all of the various categories. The next area of interest is the voter registration. And it provides you all the requirements that will be needed for registration. And some very other useful things are there that you can, for example, it provides you a list of justices of the peace. It provides you a list of constituents, villages that makes up the constituencies and so on. All right, so this section that is called constituency is very detailed, and we're working on even making it much more user-friendly. We're providing you maps of the registration centers and all of these things. So you can find, very often people struggle to find a JP. They don't know who are the JPs in their area, and this now provides you a listing of the JPs. So you can go there and familiarize yourself with who are the JPs in the various areas. And then it also lists of the villages that comprise the constituency. So for students who are at school doing their SPAs and so forth and so on, this can help them to really get a lot more information there with regards to the villages that are part of the constituency. And very shortly we would upload the maps, so you would be able to actually see it from an aerial view. Then also it has some information with regards to historical happenings with regards to the development, and all of these categories that you see there, you can peruse it and actually engage. Very, very soon, this page is also linked to the government site, so you can if you go to the government site, you can actually see a linkage there. There's a search button there. You can easily use the search button function and find a number of important things on the site. Alright, so there's linkages that are created. Very shortly there will be a Facebook page link, so that you can engage with us, and you can follow what is happening with the electoral office. So this is just one component of the strategy that we're rolling out. We are going to increase our presence on the radio. We're going to increase our presence in the media, the printed media. In fact, this week and next week, you're going to see a lot more publication from the office in the printed media, so that people can be aware of what the requirements are and where the centers are and how they can update their registration. You're going to also be hearing special messages. In fact, those of you who are here today, you are treated with free bumper stickers, so you can put on your vehicle with some registration messages. And those are some of the things that we're doing and will continue to do as we roll out this program. As the supervisor indicated to us, it will be done in stages, in phases. And so that the messages that will be coming to you will be tailored for that particular stage or that particular phase. Right now, the phase that we are in is called re-registration. That's the phase that we are in right now. It is called re-registration. When we move out of that phase and we go into another phase, we will tell you what the phase is, but certainly we are in the phase of re-registration. The Grenadines, just want you to know that the Grenadines, special provisions have been made for the Grenadines, and especially those islands that are not easily accessible. We are working towards making certain that all the persons in those islands are given opportunity to be re-registered. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing at the office is designed to create greater awareness of the electoral process and to increase the participation of the citizens in the process. we wish to ask that you help us in this regard. And information is available that you can access, and you can always get in touch with us. We are coming close to the end of the luncheon today, because work begins as soon as we finish here. We have real work to get on with, and we want to appreciate every single person who has come this morning. And to really bring that home, we invite one of our staff members, a dramatist and all kinds of skilled person, Miss Hunter, Commissioner Hunter, to come to move a vote of thanks.
Chairperson of today's proceeding, Deputy Supervisor of Election, Honorable Ministers of Government, other representation of Parliament, Superintendent of Kingston, Chateaubriand Circuit of the Methodist Church, Reverend Adolph Davis, UN Consultant attached to the Electoral Office, Ms. Yvonne Goody, colleagues from the Ministry of National Security, stakeholders, partners, staff of the Electoral Office, members of the media, well wishes, good morning. My task here today is to do the vote of thanks. First, we must thank Almighty God for bringing us thus far. Without Him, we will not be here today. The Methodist Church for the use of the building, Reverend Adolph Davis for the prayer, the permanent secretaries and other departments of national security, we thank you for coming. United Nations Information Technology Service Division, ITST for the information, web design and logo, street mapping of polling stations, physical planning for the constituency maps, the statistical office for the support in the constituency map, postcard for transportation to facilitate street mapping, and the Grenadines, the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, the Ministry of Education, for lives of schools for centers, head teachers and principals of the schools used, and adult education centers. The government printery for printing all the materials you enjoy today after closing. OSB Limited for facilitating our requests for our visibility and our uniform. Forestry Department for supplying the plants that we're seeing in the front. For the Carnival Development Committee for the decorum. The Mustique Company Limited for facilitating street mapping process. All stakeholders present and the general support. A special thanks to the Agency for Public Information API for the interviews, support, and other members of the media for their coverage of this launch. We thank you. For the staff, the entire staff body, office and field, I would like the staff of the Electoral Office to please stand. We thank you for your hard work and continue to do your hard work.